Have you ever noticed how some fears feel more real than others, even when the numbers say otherwise? How a single news story can make you completely change your behavior, while far greater risks go ignored. Your brain is playing tricks on you, and the worst part is you probably don't even know it's happening. Today, we're diving deep into one of the most powerful and deceptive mental shortcuts your mind uses every single day. The availability heuristic. This cognitive bias affects every decision you make, from the stocks you buy to the routes you drive, from the fears that keep you up at night to the opportunities you miss right in front of you. By the end of this video, you will understand exactly how your brain is sabotaging your decision-making process and have concrete strategies to fight back. Let's start with a simple question. What's more dangerous, sharks or falling coconuts? Your brain probably screamed sharks without hesitation. But here is the truth. You are significantly more likely to die from a falling coconut than from a shark attack. Coconuts kill around 150 people every year worldwide, while sharks kill an average of 10. That's a 15-to-1 ratio. So why does your brain get this so spectacularly wrong? This is the availability heuristic in action. Your mind doesn't calculate actual probability. Instead, it takes a dangerous shortcut. It asks, how easily can I remember examples of this happening? Because shark attacks make international headlines and inspire blockbuster movies, your brain treats them as common. Meanwhile, coconut deaths don't stick in your memory, so your brain dismisses them as rare. This mental shortcut was identified by psychologists Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky in the 1970s. They discovered that our brains are not rational computers, carefully weighing evidence. Instead, they're efficiency machines, constantly looking for shortcuts. And one of the most common is this: if I can think of it easily, it must be important. If I can remember examples quickly, it must happen frequently. In our evolutionary past, this actually made sense. If you could easily remember tribe members getting attacked near a watering hole, that memory accessibility genuinely indicated danger. But here is the problem. We no longer live in small tribes where our experiences represent accurate reality. Today, we live in a global information ecosystem designed specifically to hijack this mental shortcut. Media companies flood our consciousness with plane crashes, terrorist attacks, and rare diseases, while silent killers like heart disease and car accidents get a fraction of the coverage, despite causing exponentially more deaths. Let me give you a concrete example. After September 11th, millions of Americans became terrified of flying and chose to drive instead. But driving is far more dangerous than flying. Researchers calculated that the increased road traffic caused by people avoiding planes led to approximately 1,600 additional road fatalities in the year following September 11th. The fear of terrorism, driven by the availability heuristic, actually killed more Americans than terrorism itself that year. Now let's talk about how this affects your financial decisions. Imagine it's 2008 and the stock market is crashing. Every time you turn on the news, you see red numbers and panicked traders. These images are vivid and incredibly easy to remember. So what does the availability heuristic tell you? That investing is dangerous. That you need to sell everything before you lose it all. But here is what the data actually showed. That crash was one of the greatest buying opportunities in modern history. People who bought when everyone else was panicking made extraordinary returns over the following decade. Meanwhile, those who sold at the bottom, driven by easily, recalled images of disaster, locked in massive losses. The same pattern played out in reverse during bubbles. In the late 90s, everyone could easily remember stories of people getting rich from internet stocks, but most of those companies went to zero. Here's where it gets even more insidious. The availability heuristic doesn't just affect your memory of events, it affects your memory of your own decisions. Let's say you made 10 investments last year. 2 worked brilliantly, 8 were mediocre. But when you think back, which ones come to mind? The winners. This creates a feedback loop where you remember successes more than failures, which makes you overconfident, which leads you to take bigger risks, which eventually leads to disaster. Now, you might be thinking, this sounds like a problem for average people, but I'm smart. I think critically. And that's exactly the thinking that makes you more vulnerable. Intelligence doesn't protect you from the availability heuristic. In some ways, it makes you more susceptible. Smart people are better at constructing compelling narratives. When the availability heuristic presents easily recalled information. They use their intelligence to build sophisticated justifications for why that information is representative. Your intelligence just gives you the tools to be wrong with more confidence. Let me tell you about a study that demonstrates this. Researchers asked people whether there are more words that start with the letter K or more words with K as the third letter. Most said words starting with K. But they're wrong. There are roughly 3 times more words with K as the third letter. Words starting with K are just easier to recall. An education level didn't predict performance. PhDs got it wrong just as often as high school dropouts. Intelligence is no defense against this fundamental flaw in human memory. So what do we do about this? How do you fight the mental shortcut that's hardwired into your brain? First, awareness. When you feel strongly that something is common or rare, ask yourself, am I basing this on actual data or on how easily examples come to mind? This simple pause can be incredibly powerful. Second, actively seek out base rates and statistical evidence. When your brain says this feels common, find the actual numbers. What's the real probability? What does the data say? This is harder than it sounds because your brain will resist. But this discipline separates good decision makers from poor ones. Third, diversify your information sources deliberately. If you only consume news that prioritizes dramatic stories, you're feeding your availability heuristic a terrible diet. Seek out sources that focus on base rates and comprehensive data rather than individual anecdotes. Fourth, keep a decision journal. Write down your reasoning before making important choices. Then review those decisions months later. You'll start to see patterns and notice when the availability heuristic led you astray. This feedback loop helps calibrate your intuition over time. Fifth, build in waiting periods for significant decisions. The availability heuristic often creates urgency. You feel like you need to act now, but time is its enemy. Wait 24 hours. Wait a week. As time passes, emotional intensity fades, and you gain perspective. Let me bring this together with a final example. During the COVID pandemic, many people made decisions based entirely on memorable stories rather than statistical reality. Some became paralyzed with fear because they could recall stories of young people dying. Others dismissed all precautions because they remembered examples of mild symptoms. Both groups made the same error in opposite directions. The actual data showed nuanced risk based on age, health conditions, and vaccination status. But nuance doesn't stick in memory like dramatic stories do. This is what makes the availability heuristic so dangerous in the modern world. We're not making isolated errors about sharks. We're making systematic errors about everything that matters. Health, finance, relationships, career choices. And because we're all being fed the same diet of dramatic information through our screens, we're all making the same biased decisions at the same time. But here is the empowering truth. You don't have to be a passive victim of your own neurology. The availability heuristic is powerful, but it's not invincible. Awareness is the first weapon. Data is the second. Patience is the third. Together, these tools can help you make decisions based on reality rather than what your memory happens to serve up. The goal isn't to eliminate the availability heuristic. That's impossible. The goal is to recognize when it's active, to question the conclusions it's leading you toward, and to supplement your intuition with actual evidence. Every time you pause before making a judgment, every time you look up actual statistics instead of trusting your gut, you're building a new habit. You're training your brain to be skeptical of its own shortcuts. This is what separates good thinkers from great ones. It's not intelligence. It's not education. It's the discipline to question your own mind, to recognize when your brain is taking shortcuts, and to do the hard work of thinking carefully even when the easy answer feels obviously right. Because that feeling of obviousness, that certainty that comes when examples flood into your mind, that's often the availability heuristic, doing exactly what it evolved to do, giving you a quick answer based on limited information. So the next time you're absolutely certain about a risk or probability, ask yourself, am I certain because I've looked at comprehensive data, or because I can easily remember dramatic examples? That question might be the difference between wisdom and overconfidence, between a good decision and a catastrophic one. Your brain will always take shortcuts, but now you know what to watch for. Now you can fight back, and that makes all the difference.